How to catch a food thief at work. Someone at work is constantly eating my food. I've already suspected a few people and confronted them directly, but they all denied it. We've even discussed it in meetings because it's happened to 2 other colleagues as well. We're getting fed up and want to do something about it, but we don't want to hurt anyone in any way, so extremely spicy food or laxatives are not an option for us. I've done some research and came across trap paste that stains the skin violet and is non-washable, or something like UV powder. However, I only find very expensive products or ones with poor reviews. Has anyone had experience with this kind of thing and could recommend a product? Or maybe another suggestion on how to catch the thief? Relevant comments. Commenter: alternative too spicy, an ungodly amount of garlic. You'll smell the colleague right away. Oh yes, that's a great idea too. Commenter: mix in a dye that stays on the teeth. Maybe marinate the meat with it and then bread it. That way it's not noticeable at first. Blue would be intense. Aren't there those keychains that start shrieking loudly as soon as you pull out the pen? Maybe you could rig the lunchbox somehow so that one of those goes off when the thief opens it. Oh, that sounds hilarious. I think I'll try it out, even if I don't catch them in the act, but giving the person a little scare sounds like a good plan. Commenter: bromophenol blue solution as an initially invisible dye powder, which can be used to treat banknotes or cash boxes upon unauthorized contact. It creates an intense stain on the person's fingers that is further intensified by washing and lasts for 3 days. Smear some of it under the clips of the lunchbox. The fingers will turn deep blue, and the color won't come off for 3 days. It's a harmless chemical that's also used in labs for pH testing. Awesome. That's exactly what I was looking for, thank you. Update. Bromophenol blue solution has been ordered and will arrive next week. If this works, I should know who it was in about 2 weeks, and I'll gladly give you an update. If anyone else suggests putting a camera in my lunchbox, I expect you all to band together and sponsor one. I can't hear it anymore. The solution is here and will be tested tonight. Update post: caught the thief at work. First, a big thank you to you/Omega Prototype, without whom I wouldn't have gotten the substance that finally exposed the thief. For those who don't want to read my whole story. TLDR, I found out who has been munching my food at work for over a year, and I can finally put my Tupperware back in the fridge in peace. Yesterday, I placed a small Tupperware container with food in the fridge and dusted it with bromophenol blue, also rubbing the solution on it. Since food has been stolen multiple times over the past few days, including from other colleagues, the chances were high that it would work this time. Today, when I arrived at work, I immediately noticed that my Tupperware was in a different position. Also, our entire kitchen was blue, along with the restroom, locker room, and bathroom. When I greeted a colleague, I noticed that she was acting oddly distant. She barely looked at me and gave very short answers. But her hands were very clean. I should mention that I didn't just prepare my Tupperware, I also prepped my food. I have 2 cats that I had brushed the night before, and I mixed the hair into the food. I placed it fairly close to the top so that it would be immediately noticeable, and she'd stop eating it. Here comes the gross part. The Tupperware was almost completely empty. Only about 3 noodles were left, along with a lot of hair. This means that the person ate it despite the massive hairballs inside. I almost threw up when I realized that. The day went on, and at some point, the aforementioned colleague stood up. She had a blue stain on her shirt that she must have overlooked. I immediately ran to my boss, who called her into his office, and that's when it all started. She actually tried to deny it at first, but quickly realized that wouldn't work. She then admitted that she had been doing it every single time over the past few months, not just with my food, but with others as well. My boss was furious and said he needed to think about how to handle this because he doesn't want someone like that on the team. He also expects her to compensate me for the damage. Otherwise, he advised me to press charges for theft, which I won't do. Anyone who eats noodles with cat hair has other problems, in my opinion. Well, she hasn't apologized yet. She was sent home for the rest of the week, and my boss will consult on how to proceed and will update me afterward. I'm genuinely relieved to have caught the thief, but by the end of the conversation, I just felt sorry for her. Thanks for all your tips and for sticking with me. Edit, before this comes up again. We have free food at work that everyone can help themselves to, but apparently that wasn't good enough for her. This has been going on for a long time, about 2 years, and it got really bad in the last year. My food or others' food was stolen almost daily. It was discussed multiple times in the team and in one-on-one conversations. It was suggested that anyone struggling could talk to my boss about it if, for example, an illness or something else was driving them to do it and they couldn't control it. But no one ever came forward. I also understand that something must be going on with this woman for her to eat cat hair. On the other hand, I'm tired of constantly wasting my time, money. At this point, it's easily over 100 EUR, and food for someone else's problems that they won't address. If someone asks me, I'm happy to share. But enough is enough. Update on the update. The employee representation, the MAV, has scheduled a meeting for Friday. 2 members from the MAV, my boss, the thief, someone from upper management, and I will be there. Apparently, she contacted the MAV this morning and wants to explain herself in person. We're curious to see what will happen. They've already checked the legal situation and now want to hear what she has to say. Last update. I'll summarize the meeting briefly. The thief, let's call her Anna, has apologized to me and will compensate me for the stolen food in cash. I haven't decided on an amount yet. I need to calculate it first, but it will likely be between 100 to 200 EUR. Anna also explained that she didn't eat the cat hair, at least not all of it, but threw the food away once she noticed it, thank goodness. According to her, she doesn't have an eating disorder or any other psychological issues. She also said she doesn't steal otherwise. According to Anna, this all started about 2 years ago, when she saw some of my food and decided to try it. Apparently, she found it very tasty, and that led to her trying more and more until she ended up eating entire portions. She thought she'd be caught much earlier, and when that didn't happen, it became a sort of thrill for her to steal the food and get away with it. She said she had bouts of guilt and tried to stop, which in hindsight were probably the periods when less or none of the food was being stolen. She doesn't know why it escalated so much in recent months. Apparently, she doesn't have any personal issues with me. She just found my food particularly delicious, thanks, I guess. Anna is going on vacation next week, and after that, she'll be transferred to another department. If there are any thefts in her new department, she'll be out. Oh, and regarding the thrill, she was advised once again to seek help. She said she'd think about it. Relevant comments. Commenter. Worker protections are awesome and I absolutely love and endorse them as a citizen of the land of freedom at will employment. But they can be a bit much. When I lived in Russia, there were several people in the facility where I worked who were well-known non-functional alcoholics. They showed up to work drunk and did nothing. My coworkers pointed them out and said, "We just ignore them, it's too hard to fire them." For the most part, they were treated as benign nuisances. And they had a high threshold for workplace drinking. Almost everyone had vodka in or on their desk. But there was one guy who annoyed everyone. And he was universally hated by all the female employees. Male employees just found him irritating because he was literally falling down drunk all day, every day. He'd wobble over to groups of people in the cafeteria, slur out some vaguely comprehensible words, and have to be caught/propped up at least once when he started to fall over. He openly sexually harassed women. The female employees hated him because he was unrepentantly gross and creepy. Leering, overly handsy, blatantly sexual language, he was straight out of a 1990s HR training video. He moved on to me one day. I didn't speak much Russian, so I'm not sure exactly what he was saying, but the people around us were cringing, so I'm assuming it was gross. Eventually, the tiny old lady, like 4'10" and 90 pounds max, that worked in our lab ran in between us, shoved him away, and started scolding him like she was his mama. He was nonplussed, too drunk to be embarrassed. A couple people were chuckling, but he seemed not to notice. He listened to her for a few minutes and then wandered away. Even that fucking guy couldn't get fired, and they'd been trying for years. OP. Wow, that's an intense story. Worker protections are definitely important, but it's frustrating when they make it almost impossible to deal with people who are clearly problematic in the workplace. It's unbelievable that someone like that could keep their job despite being such a nuisance, and even engaging in sexual harassment. It's a tough balance between protecting employees' rights and ensuring a safe, productive work environment.